As you design piping systems, you will likely need to modify certain aspects of the system. In this model, some piping has been created using a custom pipe type. I actually need to change the material and some of the fittings. In order to update the piping, I need to update the routing preferences for the pipe type. I'll select one of the pipes. Then I'll click Edit Type in the Properties palette to open the Type Properties dialog. I'm going to edit the routing preferences for this pipe type, but you could create a new type if you still wanted to use this specific pipe type later. Next to Routing Preferences, I'll click the Edit button to open the Routing Preferences dialog for the current pipe type. In the Pipe Segment field, I'll expand the drop-down and select Steel, Carbon, Schedule 80. Next, I'll click Load Family. In the Load Family dialog, I'll open Pipe, Fittings, Carbon Steel, Class 150, Flanged. In this folder, I'll select the Class 150 Flanged Elbow and T. I'll use the Control key to select both families and then click Open. Once the families load, I'll expand the drop-down under Elbow and select the flanged carbon steel elbow that I just loaded. Then I'll expand the drop-down under Junction and choose the flanged carbon steel T that I just loaded. Then I'll click OK to close the Routing Preferences dialog and OK to close the Type Properties dialog. At this point, we need to reapply the pipe types. I'll click in blank space to deselect the pipe. To reapply the pipe type, hover your cursor over one of the pipes and then press Tab to highlight the chain of pipes. If you have piping connected to equipment, pressing Tab several times can select the equipment. To update the pipe type, we only need the piping selected. With the pipes highlighted, click to select them. In the Multi-Select contextual ribbon, pay attention to the Edit panel. You can choose to change type or reapply type. Since we modified the existing type, select Reapply Type. Once you do, Revit updates the pipe type and the elbow, T, and material change to match the updated routing preferences. I could simply select one of the fittings and change the type in the type selector, but then the pipe type would not be consistent. Also, that method could waste too much time. You can modify any of the routing preferences for an existing pipe type and use the Reapply Type tool to update the existing types. Or you can create a new pipe type and use the Change Type tool to update to a new type. I'll select the chain of pipes again. Looking in the Edit panel of the contextual ribbon, there are also Justify and Slope tools. You can use the Justify tool to change the justification of the piping after it has been created. I'll click Justify. When I do, the Justification Editor contextual ribbon displays. At the moment, the piping is aligned to the middle and center position, but you can select any of the 9 available locations to align those sides of the pipe. You could also select Alignment Line to select an alignment line. This is useful when working in a 3D view. You can also click Control Point to specify the reference endpoint in the view. Each time I click Control Point, notice that the red arrow in the drawing area moves to a new location to represent the reference endpoint. Since this piping is all the same size, the justification really does not matter. But realize that if you need to modify the justification, you can. I'll click Cancel in the contextual ribbon. When I click Slope, the Slope Editor contextual ribbon appears. I can change the value of the slope and also modify the slope control point from which the pipe will be sloped by simply clicking the button. Once again, Notice that the red arrow moves to a new location to represent the reference endpoint each time I click. I'll change the slope value to 1/8 inch per 12 inches or 1% in the metric file, and then click Finish.